Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Nurturing Astrology podcast. I'm Dominique your astrologer and host. On this show, I will bring you practical guidance and insight from my own work, studies, and life experiences, as well as interview experts to bring you stellar wisdom from other teachers and professionals. I'm so glad you're here, and thanks for tuning in. Okay, let's dive into today's show. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Nurturing Astrology podcast. I'm Dominique, your astrologer and host.
And I'm Melody, your astrologer and educator. Today we have a guest with us.
Yes, today we are with Cornelia Hansen. Welcome, Cornelia.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, Cornelia is, oh my gosh, my mentor for one, close friend, guide in this work with temperament and children. She has been an educator for decades, from early childhood, pre-K, all the way through high school. So decades of working with children, right, Cornelia? And is the author of KidWheels, Understanding the Child in the Chart, based on temperament research and astrology. So this is powerful stuff. It's definitely become the guiding principle for a lot of my work, and I think it's super important because it takes this lovely ethical approach. But given your decades of working with children of all ages, could you start by I know a lot of people know you already from a lot of talks that we've done on the channel. So, people can go back and learn all kinds of amazing wisdom from you. But since this is a new chat and maybe some new people are joining us, could you just introduce yourself a little bit about, your work and how you began bridging that gap between astrology, or blending the two, astrology and education, and also sort of the birth of KidWheels, where that kind of originated for you?
It originated for me when I was raising my 4 kids. They were all a year apart, and I was watching them grow. And I kept asking myself, why are they so different? Why each one is so unique compared to, okay, you've got the same parents, you've got the same DNA, you've got the same parent strategies that we're using. Why are they all so different? And I didn't know that until I got into studying child development, and I learned about temperament. And I said, this is fascinating. This explains so much, because temperament is present at birth. It's hereditary. It's, why are some kids getting along with other siblings and other ones they don't? Or which parent did you get along with easily and one that you didn't? And it's a matter of what we call goodness of fit. Does the child's temperament fit in with the rest of the family? And which cause other things can lead to conflicts. So that's how I got interested. And I said, well, the thing about temperament I know is it's observable and it's measurable. So I said, I can do a research. I was working at an LAUSD school district childcare center. And so I had a whole class of preschoolers. And I thought, well, this is wonderful. So I had to get permission from LAUSD, of course, and from my supervisor. And that's how it started. So we spent quite a bit of time. I taught the people that I work with, because we had 2 teachers and 3 aides in the room. So they needed to know what I was doing. And I had sheets for them to use to observe and measure. And so it took a while, but finally I was able, and every parent had a birth certificate for the child, so it was easy to do these charts. And I also asked the parents I gave them a questionnaire to ask them about their observations, so that helped a lot. Then it took a while to write it.
Yeah, so you didn't bring in the astrology into the research project, to be clear. You were doing the research project around temperament first?
I was doing a research project, but it was astrological, because at the same time I had become an astrologer, and I was interested in that. Okay, if you can know that the temperament, then I should be able, by observing it, measuring it, that I could use an astrological chart, and that's what I did.
Amazing.
Every child had to have a file of the birth certificate there.
Yeah, you don't always get that, right? I don't think nowadays, we don't provide birth certificates with times of birth and stuff to our teachers and school systems. So it was a unique situation that you could actually see the entire chart. and be able to do that kind of research project, right?
Yes, and it also helped to have the parents' observations.
Yeah, again, everyone was involved, everyone's engaged. I think that's the most fascinating part about this whole thing is that back then that you were able to get so many people to participate, LAUSD to approve it, that it was, you know what I mean? Like that to me was like this planets and
Amazing moment.
cosmic alignment, right?
Yeah.
But what I learned was interesting because we had so much relationship with the parents, with the mother particular, would drop their children off because the center was for working mothers. And we open at 6 in the morning and we're open till 6 at night. So we got to see the mothers quite often. We did, sit down with them and talk about their child. But it gave me a chance to see how mothers interacted with their child. And what I found uh, made me feel that in astrology, we look at the fourth and 10th house as father and mother. But what I found is the child's perception of the mother and the father. It's not the actual mother, because you learn after a while that parenting is two parts, it's nurturing and it's setting boundaries. So those are the two jobs that have to be done. So this is their perception of how they were done in their families.
I was telling Cornelia earlier as we were speaking, I finished reviewing KidWheels last night. And I'll tell you, Cornelia, with my children aging into teenagers and young adults and getting their reflections back of how they've been parented, it has been a hard pill to swallow. And that thing that you described was such a comfort to me because oftentimes their perception of what I'm offering them is very different than what I'm giving, and it's what I'm really chewing on right now for how to continue, how to move forward because they still need a lot of my support, all of them. So I really appreciated that particular insight and that you included it in KidWheels. Wonderful. I am curious from your perspective, what do you think are the biggest challenges that teachers in the education system are facing today?
Well, in the US, we're facing a lot of problems. The classes are too big. The teacher doesn't have a lot of autonomy. She's handed a curriculum and she's supposed to test this, teach it, and then test it. So the emphasis is always on competition for grades. There's always a lot of stress involved when you have to take these big state tests. For a whole week, you're taking tests. So children have a lot of stress. And all of the education, the way teachers have been taught, is mostly left brain. You're using symbols, reading symbols, math symbols, et cetera, et cetera. There's very little creativity. You know what I'm saying? The creative process starts in childhood, but the thing is that they lose a lot of it through the education because it's not presented to them enough. Just having an art class is not enough. Yeah, because if you have a creative approach to education, there's a lot of things you can do that add to your education. It should be more holistic. It's not. We don't tie things together. English. So when I was teaching American history, American literature, I put up a historical line, and they asked me why I was teaching them this. I said, because you have to understand that literature comes from that period. So you want to understand why are they writing about these things now? And then it changes over, and it changes with generations.
Yeah.
So if you explain things to students, then they see it. They see the connection. So it's up to us to make them understand why we're doing certain things.
And how do you see like the awareness of temperament helping teachers in the classroom with this creativity and individual, especially like how do you feel like temperament can really help in that environment now and understanding temperament?
Well, because if you once you understand elements and understand what a temperament is, and that is every child has a different one. There can be 4 or 5 or 7 different types of children in your classroom, and they all behave differently. So if the teacher is aware of this, and I learned later on that my grandson went to Waldorf school, and they use temperament in their classroom, or how they put kids. Like my grandson was one of those talkative types, and she put him in between two little quiet girls and engaged so he could stay more focused. So they use their temperament very successfully, and they have been for years. And so I think that was a good example of how helpful it can be.
So you've also said, Cornelia, we had this conversation yesterday a little bit, that where students really need can and teachers can really help is connecting with their students on a feeling level, like to feel
Right.
cared about, like the something that's missing is, and that children are struggling with, is that they just feel like you're handing out grades, you're giving information, testing, but like there's
Yeah,
not
you're
this
judging
feeling of
them
care.
all the time. That's
Yeah,
a feeling.
that
Yeah.
caring connection. So can you speak to the importance of that?
Well, I'll give you an example. One year
Okay.
I was teaching high school at that time, that later on. So I was given this class of 25 students. At least it was a small class. But they had none of them had been able to pass this Casey test, which you need to get to graduate. I sat down the first week and I listened to them. I asked me what their experiences in school was, what was difficult about the Casey, et cetera, et cetera. And I learned a lot from them, but I wanted the interaction in order for them to trust me. It was important to set a room where kids could talk and talk about their disappointments about school, to talk about they didn't feel that they were cared about, they didn't feel that they were people were interested in them, then they found it was too competitive, and the teachers had their favorites, and so on and so on. So I tried to open up a conversation with them so they felt relaxed and they knew they could talk without any repercussions. And so then I broke down how I was going to teach it. I said, "What's your biggest problem?" Well, in the case in the English is a big essay.
Mm-hmm.
Pick a famous person and write an essay about this person. And they just didn't know how to write an essay. And it isn't like teachers weren't teaching. And I said, I don't know what's missing here. I said, but I'll tell you what, I know how they grade it. And what they grade is not on the quality of the language, they grade on the structure. So I'm going to teach you the structure. Every essay doesn't have to have beautiful words because you're only graded on, do you have a thesis? Do you have three things you're going to talk about? Do you have examples? Do you have a conclusion? I said, that's what you're graded on. And so I gave them a structure to follow. And then I did a whole thing on brainstorming. I said, before you start writing, I said, you're sitting there saying, oh, what'll I write about? First, you brainstorm. Take a piece of paper and write down all the facts that you know about this particular person. And then try to divide them into three groups that you're going to talk about in the three paragraphs you have to write. Well, they all passed, which amazed principal. They had
Yeah.
gone from worst, to the top. And it stayed with them all the way through school. And I think developing a trust level with students is so important. They have to know who you are and that you care about them. That's the important thing.
It's interesting to me that in helping them pass the test, you took time, paid attention to them, but also for this very, what a lot of people would see as a creative question on a test. You went very left brain in teaching them the structure since you knew that's what they were going to be taught to, or graded on. Can
Right,
you speak to the left brain, right brain divide as it stands in education right now?
right. That's one of the problems is that the basis of teacher education is totally left brain. You're dealing with symbols and you're dealing with, here's the information I lecture, and then you have to pass a test on this information. There's no creativity involved. There's no play involved. I found that there are so many techniques that you can use because I studied with a teacher in Long Beach who had a left brain, right brain approach to education. And later on, my grandson went to Waldorf School, which is totally left brain, right brain. You just understand that. And so I started using that in my classroom.
Yeah, you were saying to me that it's best to teach a child holistically, like through the senses, through all the senses.
Right.
That's another way of like being creative. It's like to not just hear, I'm dumping this information,
Like
test you
one
on it.
time, when I was teaching American English, we talked about the early people in the 1700s. So I went to the cooking department and asked the head of the cooking department because I had a book with all these recipes that they used back then. And he said, "Oh yeah, we could do this." So we did it in conjunction. And so we had one day where everybody came. I said, "You can wear a bonnet, or whatever you want. You can wear a hat." I dressed in a teacher's costume. I mean, in an old costume from the 1700s. And we had all of this food, and I had music from the period.
Wow.
So you wanted to have all the senses engaged. Well, they'll never forget that.
Right.
Okay. Once you get all the senses involved, then you remember it better.
Yeah. Again, helps with memory.
Right. It does help with memory.
Like, where do we go? Like, where can we go in the US to look for how to improve the systems? And you've done some research on that already. Can you share some of that research?
I realized all the flaws that we had in our education system and why we had them, because education was started during the industrial age when big companies wanted people to be able to read. So they pressed for education, and it became very left brain because they wanted them to read books that gave them directions on how to do things. So that's how our education started. If you're going to have a good school system, you look around the world and say, who has a good system? Why does it work? And I noticed that there's an organization that's called Program for International Student Assessment. Every year they rate schools in different countries. And Finland, along with Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, have the highest all the time. Continuously, wow. Finland has been number one for the last 7 years that I know of. So I said, I want to learn about the Finnish school. What is the difference between their system and what are their outcomes and what are their goals? Mm-hmm. So I started looking at them. Okay, they have a holistic approach. In other words, they want the kids to learn critical thinking, collaboration, problem solving, and not just rote memorization where you're tested. Okay. That was the important thing. They wanted to produce holistic kids who have a love of learning. So how did they do that? Well, compared to the United States, for instance, you have to think about it. For instance, in Finland, school is free from pre-K all the way through education, through the university. So parents don't have to worry about, can my child go to college or not?
Wow.
That's a big thing for the family. Wow. They don't have a lot of standard testing like we do. You just handed this information, you teach this, and then you test it and see who gets the right grades. That's a lot different. They have minimal homework and shorter hours, which I think is good. Having a kid sit there, opening up your school at 9 o'clock, half the kids used to come and fall asleep.
Yep.
So having shorter hours of rest, having less homework, and being more child-directed. They want a healthy student who feels comfortable, who feels cared about. That's very important I think. And the interesting thing about the teachers in Finland are highly paid, highly trained, and highly respected. Be a teacher or something there. And what the teachers have there is something we don't have here. They have a curriculum that's flexible, that the teacher designs herself. How creative, allowing all this creativity and play and the things like I did in my classroom. That gives a strong emphasis on the student support and making sure that they're all happy and doing well. Okay. The
Mm-hmm.
classroom is more relaxed, not like ours. It's more collaborative. They work together.
Wow.
I think that's so important for them to learn that there are other people that have different ideas and how do we work together. So learning how to do that, I think, is important. So that's the difference between their school and our school.
Amazing differences, right? I mean, come on.
Well, when you look at their outcomes, these kids graduate with a love of learning that continues beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you were saying that like we were saying that the US as far as astrological is very like Martian and Saturnian. It's like competitive and
Right,
restricted and limited. And then they're more Venusian and Jupiterian, where it's like creating this love of learning and expansion and experience and this whole holistic
Collaboration.
collaboration.
right,
But you also said, Cornelia, that our systems build resentment. And that one of the hardest thing teachers are facing is kids who resent school and don't, and they're losing that love of learning. Even Melody said the other day, like your kid's like, I love learning, but I hate school. I mean, I can't tell you how
Mhm.
many times we've heard that, right, Melody?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. They'll expound on it. And I was having coffee with another mom recently whose student again poured, I mean, as much passion or vehemence into the diatribe on school not fostering a love of learning. And I'm just grateful that they know the difference, that my kids have definitely defined a difference of I love learning, school isn't that, it's
right.
something else. And it makes me sad, but I'm also just very grateful that they haven't equated the two and say, oh, I must hate learning since I hate school. I'm just very, very grateful for that.
And
But
I feel like that's probably has to do, in my opinion, Melody, with the beginnings of the stuff you did at home with them.
oh, for
And
sure.
you know what I mean? That
For
foundational
sure.
time of
The love of
embedding that
learning
love
was
of learning.
throughout our whole house. We talked about being an educational household and that was our home culture was learning things. And yeah,
Yeah.
it was
So
very early on.
luckily, those
Yeah.
foundational years were powerful, right?
For sure. So I really resonate with the cultural difference. On a previous episode, I went on a rant about how in the United States we put so much pressure for achievement in education, and at the same time we devalue teachers. We don't pay them much. We put so much pressure on it. It's such a stark contrast, and that's a very big cultural difference and for the research you did around Finland and its education system, the stark difference around the culture. What do you think we can do to start making steps towards a shift in culture? And how does Pluto and Aquarius and Uranus and Gemini play into that?
Well, I think, first of all, studying another system and how it works and bringing back the basic principles. And where you have to start is in your teacher education. Now they're trained left brain. They need to have other experiences to bring in other things. Uh, they need to change their emphasis from competition to collaboration.
Yeah.
Okay, I would change the system of how we teach teachers. I would get them into doing creative things and showing them possibilities that they could bring into their classroom. The feeling of building a trust relationship with the students, how important that is. Having smaller classes is very, very important. You get to know your students. You have to start with a goal and you say, how can we do this? And you look at the techniques that they use in different countries. What would work for us? And then you have to incorporate that in how you train your teachers.
Are there any examples that you find in your research of countries that were able to make dramatic shifts? Like, are there countries that
It's
moved up the
interesting
list because they
because
changed things?
if you look at Denmark, Norway, Sweden, their culture is so different from ours, because they are socialist democracies. There's not stress there. Everybody's
Yeah.
taken care of. And that relieves a lot of the tension. And so,
Yeah.
and also their child, I just read a book about an English woman who married and moved to Finland, not Finland, Denmark, and how their system was so different that raised totally independent type of children.
Wow.
It didn't coddle them, and they allowed them so much freedom and independence, and we don't do that.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think you hit it on the head there too, Melody, with the word culture, because what we're seeing with Pluto and Aquarius is, especially in this country and our return, is the breakdown of that culture and all the systems, right? And so if we try to have a hopeful, idealistic view of this, it's like the ability for the people to decide if the culture changes, then we can hopefully change some of the systems and we can re-innovate a new system or multiple systems and having more choice. I mean, that whole thing in LA, it's like the choices, right? It's really a choice of a school, but it's not really choices. So maybe there's something to broadening that. And part of the sad breakdown we're seeing in this country of the systems and the radical changes in the culture are the necessary ugly parts that are going to help us transform, and the people start to be able to decide what they want the future culture to look like, and the amount of freedom and independence that we have as individuals and groups and communities and what have you. And therefore Uranus and Gemini giving us multiple pathways for educating our kids, right? I think there's this overview of needing there to us teachers and teachers to be leading with more compassion and empathy and understanding and coming from a place of collaboration and Aquarian energy of honoring the individual but being collaborative, right? Having this idea to have multiple views and multiple ways of teaching. And I think there'll be Uranus and Gemini is going to start breaking up and having multiple streams and choices of types of education. That's what I hear you saying we need, and that's how it's speaking to me in terms of this energy as I try to be hopeful in the ugly part of the breakdown we're seeing now, right? How about you?
I think that's very true. I think the emphasis is going to be on more collaboration, and we're going to have new tools also, because a lot of that is going to be found in our technology.
Yes. Yes.
We've got AI to do now. What can we use AI for? So people are not frightened of it. So
Yes.
a lot of new things that will be coming with Uranus and Gemini, and Pluto certainly is bringing a whole idea of change.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need change from the old ways to things that more fit with our modern culture.
Yeah.
They've been running the school system the same way since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Need some changes.
Yes,
Wow.
I think so.
What are you thinking, Melody? I see your brain going.
I'm thinking, I just want some practical steps to take, right? Like it feels so big to think taking down systems. I mean, I know that's part of, what the energies are, but to have such a strong longing to see a shift in our values, in seeing teachers get paid better because we want better for our children, and not really know what I can do practically to make that happen. I mean, other than what we're doing right now and just sharing that message and that desire and that longing, and a call for change, that is practical, of course. But boy, I'd love some marching orders.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing we're trying to explore here. And
Sure.
if we can understand a problem and where the limitations are, and really like where our efforts could maybe
Yes.
support. And it seems to me like it's with the teachers themselves. That's the thing I keep coming back to.
I just had a wondering around, we were talking earlier in the episode about the parental axis, the father, mother, and that it's really the child's perception. Do you think there's a place in the chart, and this may be a whole nother episode, this may go to
A thought
something else
starter.
that
Yeah, you look
Dominique and I have. Is there a polarity where there's teacher child
yeah,
and
that's
can
the third house and ninth house.
okay, that's what we were
Right,
speculating.
Yeah.
right. So you would look at that because some kids are going to perceive a teacher as great and some aren't.
So then a teacher would be well
Informed.
advised to know what that is for each of the children. And then how, like, I don't know, from before when I was saying how hard a pill it is to swallow for just, it's not as close a relationship teacher child as it is to parent child, but like to be perceived as other than you are is really, really hard. So a teacher could be showing up really, really well for a child, but the child isn't able to access it. What are the ways we can accommodate teachers and parents a child who has needs that are different than what we're offering?
Well,
Good one.
I think we can use a lot of astrological tools for teachers.
Awesome.
Just understanding, well, we've got a lot of water in the class this time, or we've got a lot of earth, or we've got fire, and adapt perception, her perception of what she needs to do to satisfy the needs of these children.
Mm,
And I
okay.
think it helps you to understand individual children. When I was teaching in high school, I realized that some kids, like my daughter, she was in a sixth grade advanced class, and she used to scribble make pictures in the corner of her paper. And the teacher told her she couldn't do that. And she said, "But mother, it helps me focus."
Mm-hmm.
These are the distractible kids. So I had a whole box of what I call fidgets.
Nice.
Okay? Because they need something in their hand to be moving around in order to be able to focus and concentrate. Well, that was great. It worked great. A lot of the kids, it helped them a lot.
Well, I would love to get back to the kind of theme of temperament, because I feel like the sort of core of this is that the understanding of the temperament can really serve both parent and teacher from early age all the way through high school and into adulthood. Because in your practice in family therapy, Cornelia, that you've helped adults using temperament in relationship as much as you have children and,
Right.
and parents. So I do think that that's the core message we're getting here, is that this can really breed more compassion and connection and understanding for both parent and teacher, and
And
taking
also the strategies that you need to use with those children.
yes, and the strategies, and you even had one of your students buy a bunch of these and bring them to their preschool.
Right.
Right? 'Cause we're like, every school should have one of these, because it's not just about the astrology. It's very basic, shows you how to do it, but you give real actionable tools for how to help, and nurture each different
Yes, if you
different
understand
type.
what a temperament is basically, and then you understand that there are strategies that work with that child better than they do with another child, that gives you a lot of hope. And I've also seen that in parents too, because I've taught parents in parenting classes and teaching them about temperament. And I remember there was one mother, she came in and she had this whiny, difficult child. And so when I told her it was the child's temperament, it wasn't her, she was so relieved. I mean, it's not my fault, it's not my parenting, because she was comparing her child with her friend's child, and they were so different in temperament, and she couldn't understand what she was doing wrong. And
Yeah.
so when I said, no, it's a child's temperament, you just need these strategies, and could give them to her. So
Nice.
even if you were not familiar with astrology, you can basically go through that book and find out what temperament is. And you can give out questionnaires to parents to talk about their child's temperament and their own temperament, which is very helpful for the teacher to understand too.
Yeah. Cornelia, you and I have talked about how this early, and even Melody had this early childhood time and preschool is really key, but that it also, in temperament, is observable and we're born with it. And we can make those adjustments for the goodness of fit by understanding our own. But that also, I used to question, and I think that we've gotten this question in the class a few times, like, can it change and can it evolve? And it can change and evolve because we know as astrologers that there's progressions in astrology. So the energies of the natal chart do progress forward, and that is where we can see the temperament grow and change, and depending on how it's nurtured and understood can make the difference, or the goodness of fit that we're creating, the environments that they're growing up in can also affect how that temperament evolves. I know learning in the class when my child was young, he was distractible, but he's evolved, he's grown, and we've worked with it, and he can focus much better now. He's not nearly as distractible and not in the same ways because of time. So there's this evolution.
We have to teach not only the teachers, but the parents, okay, that every child has a different temperament, and how it's treated is what makes the difference. So if we're aware of the temperament, we understand the child is highly distractible or highly persistent or whatever, then it helps us make a better fit with the child so that they grow up positively.
Yeah.
Instead of it, you get a difficult child and they're going to have problems.
Yeah.
That's the one thing they found about temperament. You could predict these children who are going to develop behavior problems because of their strong personality.
Yeah.
They presented more of a challenge to the parents.
Yeah.
I appreciated your caution in the book around easy children, and how that kind of illustrates what you just said, that how the temperament is treated can impact how it moves forward, because easy children can often be overlooked, especially if they have siblings that are tougher. And there's ways I've seen that happen in our household. Like, it's just so much drawn to one child that seems to take so much attention. It's easy to not pay attention to children who seem to be moving along okay, and yet to give them, each one, your undivided attention is so important. It was
I think
really
it's also
encouraging.
helpful to understand it within the family. Like, we had a mother who had two children, and one was a steamroller personality, and the other was a water sensitive type, and they were always fighting, and she was always playing referee.
Yeah.
I said, well, they're together for a reason, to teach each other. I said, so you have to teach them how to communicate, how to talk the problems out, instead of being a referee and you being the one that decides.
Yeah.
Which is a tough job. A mother doesn't like to choose one child over another. So yeah, there are ways to use temperament that really, really helps.
I've seen that in the classroom as well. I've volunteered in the classroom and seen where the teacher is completely preoccupied with a difficult child, or a child that's highly persistent and struggling, and the easy children and the kids that do the work feel neglected, or don't, they don't feel cared about, because the focus is, all the way over here on maybe a child that's having more challenges, so I think you're absolutely right. That's something to be aware of. It's not like, oh, I have an easy child. Yay. For sure. I think that's the thing. And they do teach in child development about temperament. I know, Cornelia, but I think that what we're saying here, and the bridging of the astrology, is that it can go much deeper, and the wisdom and the connection of the astrology can be a real shortcut and tool for parents and teachers to understand what they can do, or even the why of, like, the nature of the child, the uniqueness, and that acceptance that this is their unique nature, this is mine. How can we work together, and how can I adjust to better serve my child and in their development and in their growth? And the same thing with the teacher. So we think this would be ideal for teachers, especially in the early years, to understand their students.
Read the quote on the other side of the book.
Oh, yes. The Marianne Williamson quote: "There is no single effort more radical, Uranus, in its potential for saving the world than a transformation of the way we raise our children."
Yeah.
And I appreciate you bringing all your years and years of wisdom and knowledge continuously to this conversation. It's a big passion of our work. We've been working together for probably 7-8 years now. We've done all kinds of talks that are on the channel. I help Cornelia now teach her class at Kepler, which she does twice a year. The book is available on Amazon, where you can find your book. So definitely, I encourage all parents and teachers to pick one up. So any final thoughts or questions, Melody or Cornelia?
Final thoughts. I just went, I think I mentioned it. I just reviewed the book myself this last week, and I put my children's charts through it, and it was super easy to follow. The instructions were fascinating. I was able to collate the information very quickly, very swiftly, and received new insights to my even now older children. So I have a little more collating to do and integration with the back part of the book that goes with what I've gathered. But I'm really looking forward to doing that as my kids are continuing to grow.
Absolutely. And Cornelia's 5-week class through Kepler basically walks you through 5 weeks of doing this process and integrating it. So definitely, if you're interested in that, keep an eye out for it. And Cornelia, I'd love for you to leave us with your hopes or wishes for the future of education or teaching, or any final thoughts you might have.
Well, I think because of the transits that are coming up, the ones with Uranus and Pluto, but also the Aries vortex, that the energies are moving in a different direction. And I think you can see that in our relationship to other countries, that we're becoming more and more connected. And so we're going to need more cooperation to solve the problems, like climate change, like overpopulation. We have to start solving these problems. And the only way we can do that is if we work together globally. So we have to learn how to work in the collaboration. We'll get more collaboration. We'll get more caring about solving the problems. We'll get more concern about other people.
Yeah.
Getting away from this idea that I'm an individual and I can do whatever I want when I feel like it. No, that there are other people involved that you have to take in consideration.
Yeah. I think the global coalition that we're creating, that we are slowly building and kind of reimagining of how we can serve educators and make these shifts, we want to include people from other countries and around the world to bring in those influences and those characteristics or ways or what they're doing to help our systems here. So that would be a wonderful way to kind of like make that a global coalition so that we can globally come together even around this subject of how we teach and raise our children and these next generations so that they are raised as happy, healthy kids who love to learn and see the value of that,
Yes, and I think what you're saying is so important.
Okay, thank you, Melody, for joining me on this interview. And I'm excited about our future talks. We have a lot of great interviews coming up, and don't forget to go back and listen to all our other thought starters. There's a lot of good stuff we're talking about, and we'd love for you to join the conversation out there. Drop your questions and your thoughts, and join the conversation. Right?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
This is a way of planting seeds.
Yes. And Cornelia, thank you for helping us plant more seeds today and learning from your wisdom about how we can plant those seeds and make them grow, help them grow. So.
Oh, well, thank you. I enjoyed talking to you both.
Okay. Yeah. Bye, ladies. Thanks for listening, and I hope you gained some great astrology insight and inspiration from today's show. I'd love to hear, so drop me a comment or share in a review. Check out the show notes for all the details and links about today's episode, how you can connect with me on social or work with me directly. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Oh, and for my moms out there, be sure to join my private Conscious Parenting with Astrology Moms group on Facebook. Come join a growing community of like-minded mamas supporting each other in the hardest job in the world with the help of astrology. Hope to see you over there. Take care and keep nurturing the nature, friends. I'll see you on the next episode.